Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. It's nice to be inside. And this is the 2010 Journalism School graduation ceremony. For family members, students that I have not met, I'm Nick Lemann, the dean. And I want to start on a logistical note by saying that in case the ecstasy at the end is too out of control for you to listen, afterward, the kind of after party to this is indoors today, unlike how it usually is. It's on the 5th floor of this building. You go out and up. And if you're hale and hearty, I would advise taking those ramps you've been looking at all year, because the elevator capacity in this building is very, very limited. But you go all the way to the top, and there's this wonderful room, and you'll find food, drink, etc. So we traditionally begin this ceremony, as I warned you yesterday, with a few remarks by me. So here goes, and they will be brief. One of the distinctive aspects of Columbia Journalism School is that the great majority of our students are here for only 1 year. As all of you in the audience know, it's a peculiarly intense year, as if we had figured out how to distill the more languorous time to degree at all the other schools at Columbia down to a powerful essence. Still, speaking for myself, I wish our close acquaintanceship were not so brief. And I hope you'll endeavor to extend it by becoming, from the moment of receiving your diplomas forward, highly engaged and active alumni. We're here for you long after today. There's one advantage for me, however, to our short course to degree. Every year I open our graduation ceremony with a few brief remarks like this, and if I repeat myself from year to year, very few members of the audience will notice. Last year, I urged our graduates to get involved in the larger conversation about the future of journalism that is now taking place very intensely in societies all over the world. A conversation that is going on not just within the confines of the profession, as was customary before the digital revolution arrived. This year, I would like to deliver a similar but more pointed message. If you heard me last year, well, sorry, but as my mother used to say, it bears repeating. Just after I arrived here as dean 7 years ago, I got a phone call from a senior at Harvard who was writing a thesis about the media reform movement, the folks who push for government policies meant to reduce the scope of big media companies. She wanted to know why there never seemed to be any journalists involved in that movement's activities, either as supporters or as opponents. It was a good question. Media reform simply isn't on most journalists' minds, even though many or most of us work for media companies or would like to. Why not? I think it's because we like to conceive of ourselves as independent solo crusaders who go out, uncover uncomfortable truths, and resolutely bring them to the public's attention. All we need to be able to do this is freedom. But what makes our idea of ourselves more complicated now is that, at least in the United States, with the advent of the open internet, we don't lack for the freedom to say what we want. What we urgently need more of is economic support for the kind of dogged reporting that, at least at this school, we hold up as the sine qua non of great journalism. Journalists of my generation grew up believing that the best way to get this support was just by demanding it from rich owners. But now, owners of journalistic properties aren't quite so rich. So whom do we ask? Many years ago, when he was a law professor, Lee Bollinger, the president of this university, used to write that the United States had a dual press system with an unregulated realm, print, and a regulated realm, broadcast. Both the newspapers and the broadcast outlets usually had a highly protected monopoly position in their markets, at least at the time Bollinger was writing, which made them very profitable and therefore able to support journalism. In the digital age, President Bollinger's distinction doesn't really hold anymore. Most journalism is consumed online, and most of us get online through a system that government touches, a cable line, a telephone wire, a satellite. So even though it may not appear that way to you, journalism is deeply intertwined with government policy. And the way government, business, and technology have set up the playing field, the folks who carry the signal to your computer make money, and the folks who create the material that the signal carries, meaning, among others, us, do not. There is an intense debate going on right this minute about government policies that will have enormous effects on the future of journalism. The media reform movement, as always, is mainly focused on limiting the power of big media companies and on improving public access. Therefore, its main causes regarding the internet are universal broadband access, so that everybody everywhere can have fast service, and net neutrality, so that internet service providers have to continue giving every user equal access to every website. Internet service providers, as always, are pushing back against the media reform movement, and journalists are almost nowhere to be found in this debate. One of the few journalism organizations to answer a recent call from the Federal Communications Commission to comment on the future of our business was the Radio, Television, and Digital News Association, whose public comment pronounced the state of commercial broadcast journalism to be just fine and ended on this libertarian note, I'm quoting, "The Commission should not accede to calls from those who would have the government tell the public what is best for them, or who would integrate the government and the press. That would deal a far greater blow to our democracy than any perceived," and I want to emphasize they say perceived, "contraction in journalism," unquote. If the reformers win this round, then most Americans will be able to go anywhere they want in the vast reaches of the World Wide Web. But I'm far less optimistic than the RTDNA that journalists will have the economic means of producing journalism. We could wind up with a situation that's an exaggerated version of what we have now: more access, less real repertorial journalism. Let's assume that everybody in this room wants to see our profession have the resources it needs to perform its function in society to the fullest. Where will the resources come from? Most of the discussion about the fabled new business model for journalism, whose arrival we are all eagerly awaiting, seems to be turning to the idea of restricting the regime of absolutely free access to all journalism produced everywhere that we've had over these last few years. News organizations' websites will mainly begin charging for access. New tablet-style mobile devices will probably charge readers from the get-go. And advertisers may find readers who can and do pay and advertisers may find readers who can and do pay to be a more attractive audience than easily distractible web surfers. Even if this all works economically, and I certainly hope it does, it will still represent a departure from the current socially attractive and economically untenable idea that the fruits of our journalistic labor should be available free to all the citizens of the world. So one could argue that economic support for journalism is a public good and should be funded from sources in addition to the free market, as, for example, universities like Columbia fund themselves partly through the free market, aka your tuition checks, and partly from other sources. Maybe internet service providers should be compelled to set aside some money for news production, as broadcasters, in effect, used to be before broadcast deregulation. Or maybe the public radio and television systems should get funding to do more original local reporting. Or maybe philanthropy should fund journalism. Or maybe government itself should, with appropriate firewalls to protect editorial freedom, as it has with high distinction in some other countries. These are not abstract ideas from a seminar room. They are intensely and urgently under discussion right now in Washington and much of the rest of the world but mainly without the participation of journalists. And I should add, they're not being discussed behind closed doors in Washington. They're being discussed behind open doors in Washington, and you still have a tremendously hard time getting journalists to participate in these discussions. I'm using my few minutes at the podium today to urge you as strongly as I can not only to go out and be great journalists, but also to learn about and engage in the realm of public policy that affects our profession. There will be decisions made in just the next few years that will profoundly affect the way you do your work over the many decades of your careers. You really shouldn't let them be made without us collectively in the room. The idea that journalists somehow sully themselves if they become active participants in shaping the future of our profession isn't just silly, it's dangerous if you believe journalism is as vital to the health of free societies as I think we all do. As young journalists, you are standing at the doorway to a new period in our profession whose nature is still being determined. Journalists always get to witness history unfolding. That's one of the great attractions of our profession. You will also get to witness the history of journalism unfolding more dramatically than most of us sitting up here on the stage have. Please don't let yourselves be on the receiving end of history. Be participants in it. Thank you. Now, I'm going to call to the podium the SPJ advisor, Rebecca Castillo. Rebecca is Assistant Director of the Columbia Scholastic Press Association, a venerable organization that works with budding high school journalists. In fact, that was one of my first touch points to journalism many, many years ago. Rebecca is a graduate and former class president herself, and she will introduce our student speaker. Rebecca?
The Society of Professional Journalists is an international organization of reporters for broadcast, print, digital media, and photojournalists who support each other and provide examples of the best practices of journalism. They remind us to hold ourselves to the higher standards of ethics, integrity, and getting the story right, as well as advocate the protection of the First Amendment and its guarantees of freedom of speech and the press through its advocacy efforts. At the Columbia Graduate School of Journalism, we have a student chapter of SPJ, which is also the de facto student government. All of the officers are elected at the beginning of the fall term. And at this time, I'd like to ask all SPJ members to stand and be acknowledged for the hard work this year. This year, your class elected Siddharth Philip as the class president. In one of my first conversations with Sid, I found out that he passed up a full scholarship to Berkeley to choose our school. When I asked him why he chose the J School, he responded very simply, it was never a question in his mind. He wanted to learn from the best. Sid has received a job and will be gainfully employed with Bloomberg News in Mumbai, India, following graduation. Ladies and gentlemen, class president 2010, Sid.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and the class of 2010. At the outset, I want to mention, especially to Dean Shri, that I tried to keep this speech to 140 characters, actually less, but it turned out to be more difficult than landing a plane in the Hudson. This year has been a crazy one. For the first part, I realized that the school didn't inform me in March last year that housing was not really necessary. Given that I spent most of the year sleeping on the couches on the 5th floor and in the student center, I really didn't need to fork out so much in rent. Apart from friending each other on LinkedIn and Facebook and attending happy hours at 10:20 and the Lion's Head, we actually managed to get a surprising amount of work done this year. the mandatory digital media bootcamp, RW1, assignments, and other classes. Come to think of it, this year was so intense that at some point, I even gave up reading the newspaper. During the year, which has been overwhelming for almost everyone at the school, we met with tons of journalists, bloggers, and even the guy who tweeted about the Hudson plane crash. Almost everyone we met has an opinion about journalism. Some even talk about how journalism is dying and the internet having killed any value the news used to have. But the more I look at it, the more I realize that it's far from a dead profession. In fact, it's more important than ever. In a world where rumors have an even faster way of getting around, a world that is getting increasingly intolerant, and one where news from one of its corners can have a massive ramification 7 oceans away. And as journalists, this is the most exciting time to be in the profession. Our generation, or maybe the next, will be the ones that hopefully discover the right model for the business in today's interconnected world. Our school's founder, Joseph Pulitzer, had great faith in the importance of journalism and its role as a fourth estate of government. And his reason for founding our school was his belief that the power to mold the future of the Republic will be in the hands of journalists of future generations. Or at least that's what the university wanted to put up on the wall. In these trying times when everyone seems to be dismissing journalism as a dead profession, and all of us are struggling to be employed, our founder inspires us not to give in to the tales of the sky falling. This has been the most fantastic year of my life. I really mean it. And I'd like to thank each and every faculty member, the deans, the administration, and most of all, my colleagues from the class of 2010. Thank you.
That was great. Thanks, Sid. Joseph Pulitzer did actually write that, by the way, about the future of the Republic. So we're very ethical about what we put up on the walls around here. Now, those of you who braved the bad weather and went to the university commencement this morning, yes, you're very hardy people. And you saw the honorary degrees presented, which is, very wonderful and thrilling. But there's one disadvantage, which is that only President Bollinger is allowed to confer honorary degrees, and the deans are not allowed to confer them. However, if individual schools were allowed to confer honorary degrees, the Columbia Journalism Award would be our honorary degree, and in fact, it's even better than a university honorary degree because there's only one recipient per year, so we really have to put our marker down on somebody. It's chosen by a vote of the faculty every year, quote, for singular journalistic performance in the public interest, and is presented annually to someone of overarching accomplishment and distinguished service to journalism. This year's award winner is Gail Collins, who's here. Before I invite Gail to the podium, I'm going to read a brief introduction, although she doesn't need much of an introduction in this crowd. Gail Collins joined the New York Times in 1995 as a member of the editorial board and later as an op-ed columnist. In 2001, she became the first woman ever appointed editor of the Times editorial pages. At the beginning of 2007, she stepped down and began leave in order to finish a sequel to her book, America's Women, 400 Years of Dolls, Drudges, Helpmates, and Heroines. She returned to the Times as a columnist, as you know, because you do read the Times, except Sid, in July 2007. Before joining the Times, Ms. Collins was a columnist at New York Newsday and the New York Daily News, and a reporter for United Press International. Her first jobs in journalism were in Connecticut, where she founded the Connecticut State News Bureau, which provided coverage of the state capital and Connecticut politics. When she sold it in 1977, the CSNB was the largest news service of its kind in the country, with more than 30 weekly and daily newspaper chains. Besides America's Women, which was published in 2003, Ms. Collins is the author of Scorpion Tongues, Gossip, Celebrity, and American Politics, and the Millennium Book, which she co-authored with her husband, Dan Collins. Her new book is about American women since 1960. And then I'll get to her really important credentials, which are, they're less important, BA from Marquette University, MA from UMass Amherst, and then rising up the credential scale, Master of Science in Journalism from Columbia Journalism School, where she was a Badgett Fellow in the class of the 1981-82 school year, and then the pinnacle achievement of her career, adjunct professor at Columbia Journalism School, where with Seth Lipsky, she's taught the opinion writing course this year. Gail, we have a sort of a dance with the presentation and you and the speech and so on, so you can figure out where to put this thing. It's pretty heavy.
Whoa, this is
but congratulations.
Thank you. This is like a lethal weapon. God, this is a serious piece of marble or something here. Thank you so much. It is so good. It's so nice to see a rowdy group at a graduation, too. I like this a lot. Go for it, I say. Yes. And this is your day. I mean, you know, all day long you should celebrate, you know, be difficult. And at dinner, tell your family long stories about people they've never heard of before, you know. Eat their desserts. Just do everything you want because this is absolutely your day. Go. You know, I searched for suggestions on how to give a proper commencement speech, and I have distilled all the advice I got down into 4 rules, which I'm prepared to follow. The first is to be brief. That is not going to be a problem because when I graduated from college, I was totally traumatized by our graduation speaker, who was a very prominent diplomat, whose name I will not repeat, but he talked for like an hour and a half, I swear. And every time anyone mentioned my diploma after that, my father would sort of whimper and quiver a little bit. Although it was actually a good thing for me because I can tell you this, because we're in such an intimate group where things will never get out, I'm sure. I didn't actually graduate with my class. This is a true story. I got an incomplete in ethics of journalism. Made it up later. Second suggestion was to give helpful career tips. So I worked up 5, and these really are the best I could think of. First of all, when you send out your clips, send out the ones with the best leads because editors have very short attention spans. True fact. Number 2, once you get the job, figure out your goal, what assignment you want next, and then tell your editor repeatedly. Your editor does not know where you should be going next. Your editor does not know, really, he's not thinking about anything about it. Trust me, your editor does not know, has no earthly idea, so you figure it out for yourself and then nag as long as possible. Number 3, try to write for anybody who asks you. At minimum, it gives you the kind of practice in writing that you would get if you were keeping those journals that people like me keep urging you to keep, which I never kept, but it did sound like a really good idea. And you can never tell when any assignment, I truly believe this, you can never tell when somebody asks you to write something, no matter how peculiar it is, what it's going to lead to. It could be anything. I have to tell you, though, that this line of thinking, this truly did, in the 80s, lead me to become a correspondent for some period of time for the Polyester News. I swear, you have no idea how many things can be written about polyester. It just goes on and on. Never say anything, never. This is very, very, very important, especially if you write for a newspaper. Never say that anything is the oldest or the biggest or the longest. I promise you there's a reader in Indiana who knows of something that is older or bigger or longer, and he will drive you crazy. And finally, when you've established yourself and a popular magazine calls and says that they're dying to have something written in your voice, understand this probably means they're dying to have something written in your voice and then rewritten in their voice. That's all I can tell you on that point completely. The third rule for a commencement speech, I think, from the ones I've read and listened to, is that I should tell you an inspiring anecdote from my life, which which point I am totally screwed completely. I got into this business during the Great Women's Movement, and I arrived in New York approximately 1 second after women had filed the suits at places like the New York Times and Newsweek, who had protested, who had demonstrated, who had gotten in the face of the editors, and had forced the male editors of the time to create a new gender-free industry from the bottom to almost, possibly the very almost top at this point. Anyway, they did it. They were the heroines. I came in 1 second later. The women who did those suits, the women who did those protests, who were the heroines of the story, did not get the rewards. People like me who came right after them got the rewards. People who had not filed the protest or gotten in the face of the editors and so on and so forth. I know the women who came right before me who did those things, and they're not bitter. They are still pissed at their papers, I have to say that, but they're happy about what happened. They are really, really rejoice in all the things that have happened to women since their time, all the places women have gone in the profession, all the things they've done. And for me, that is the definition of a great heart. Somebody who can take joy in somebody else's success at something that you meant to win at ahead of time and didn't. It's just, and this profession that you're going into is full of people with great hearts. Many of them are eccentric to the point of insanity, but they're amazing, amazing, brave, smart, daring people, and I cannot tell you how lucky you are to be going into the profession where there are so many of them. I cannot tell you how lucky I feel to have been in a profession that I've met so many of them over the years. This brings me, and I can't tell you, bottom line is I'm not going to tell you my best story, which is the one about how I got a unisex bathroom on the 5th floor of the state capitol in Connecticut, which was really the best thing I did for my sex the entire time I was working there. But some other time, we'll get back to that. The most important requirement for a commencement speech, and this is the one that's the center of all of them, I think, really, is the description of the exciting opportunities that await the graduates. You think that's going to be a problem for me? It's not. Ha, ha, ha. I've got it. I truly believe, as Nick was talking before, I truly, absolutely believe there's going to be a complete explosion of terrific journalism in your generation, partly because there's so much need for coverage of so many aspects of our lives that have been completely ignored for so long, particularly local government, state government, neighborhoods, foreign affairs, small countries that never get covered unless my colleague Nick Kristof shows up there one day. All this stuff is dying to be covered out there. All that we're lacking, we've got plenty of stuff to do. All that we're lacking is a method of making money off the content of the web, and I am absolutely sure that's coming. I do not know anything about technology. Nick has thought about this 10 times more than I have, but I am very good at history, and I have noticed that one way or another, consumers always wind up paying for stuff that they want. Corporations always win in the end, and amazingly, at this point, we're on the side of the corporations. I think this positions us very well in the United States of America for future success. So I truly believe this is going to work out, but in the meantime, I would advise all of you to find partners who have good health benefits in their job. That's for the partners out there. But in return for your trouble, I just want to talk a minute about what you're going to get. And you're going to get to fill the unmet needs of all that coverage of state government, local government, of foreign countries that are being totally, completely ignored all the time, of neighborhoods, of serious endeavors from medicine to highway construction. All that goes without saying, I have to say, but you're also going to do something else that I have thought about a lot, and that is that you guys are going to invent a whole new form of communication that doesn't even exist right now. In my time, I always found that technology had a profound effect on what we wrote, and I think this is true throughout history. In my time, two big things happened. One was that the typewriter gave way to the word processor and then the computer. And when that happened, the writing changed. It became, as I swear to you, crisper. It was less dense. You know, before that, I think you all know, you've heard enough about people like me telling you this stuff, that you got a typewriter and you took 5 pieces of paper and 5 carbons in between the pieces of paper, and you typed one big, massive, bulky thing. This was not something you were going to tinker with once you were done. This was pretty much the way it was going to be, you know. You might send it to a copy editor who would get rid of the most incoherent sentences, but that's about all that was going to happen for you. With a computer, the thinking did not get any deeper, but the writing did become smoother, humor was easier, and shorter was much easier. And that was very important, because the other great technological change in my time was the arrival and total taking over of culture by television. And when TV arrived, attention spans started to shrink instantly until they reached the approximate size of a gnat's, I think, by the time they were done. If you look at the papers in the 40s and the 50s and see how formal the writing is, how dense the writing is, you realize that the people who were writing knew that their readers were not going to go anywhere. They were stuck. The readers had no choice unless they wanted to stare at the walls or something. They had them by the neck. And the change came slowly. Suddenly, though, as TV, the first generation of TV-raised people came of age in the 60s and the 70s. And as that happened, the writing slowly became jazzier and snappier and shorter, because you had to hang on to these people just to get them through a story. You had to find ways to keep their attention. And this happened on and on and on, and the change came slowly, though, because frankly, most of the older pre-TV writers had to make way for a new generation whose brains were programmed to that new order. And you just can't relearn your approach to reading and writing and thinking once you reach a certain age. You just have to die off and let the people who grew up with a different wiring take over. And generally, people do not like to think about this. They're not fond of it. I can tell you, when the internet first came into our lives, when I went to the '96 convention, it was the first time, I think, that the Times brought the internet with them. People were there, and at that time, God, it was like 4 card tables with 5 billion wires coming out of everything all over the place, and these people were sitting there typing. And some of the older guys would walk by and would accidentally pull out the plugs. This happened many times. I mean, these poor people were just completely being pulled off the air all the time. It was there was a new world, and they knew it was coming, and they knew they weren't going to be part of it, just as I know I'm not going to be part of the thing that happens next. Right now, most internet-based writing is basically print writing with shorter paragraphs. But in the end, it's going to have to be a totally different animal. A new generation of readers doesn't have the attention span of a gnat anymore. They have the attention span of a little baby gnat with ADD, baby gnat. They're just, you can't hold them for a sentence anymore unless you really work at them. You wish they had the attention span of a gnat. Gee whiz. They've grown up in a world with so many continual distractions that reading a paragraph, reading a sentence is a commitment for them. But they are not less curious. They're no less curious, and they're no less concerned about the world around them than the people who came before. It's just that they're going to have to be read through new forms of writing with more bells and whistles than my generation has ever dreamed of. It's going to be really hard to figure this out. It's going to be like twittering War and Peace at them. I don't know how it'll happen, but it's doable. It's doable, and when people want to get their thoughts and ideas and discoveries across, they do find a way to do it. And you're going to find a way, and you're going to make history. You're going to be the ones to do it, and future generations are going to read the stuff that people like me wrote, and they might be interested, and I hope they'll take notes for class on occasion. But we're not going to speak directly to them, and you will. And this is the most exciting challenge I can imagine for people who are in love with the written world. You are going to do it. You are going to change the universe, and it's entirely for you. And I am so envious, but all I can say to you is go and do it. Knock their socks off, and have a great graduation day. Thanks very much. This is the
award. Thanks, Gail. That was wonderful. Not all of you who are here now, were here yesterday at Miller Theater for our student award ceremony. Because this is a much bigger hall. So for those of you who did not have the pleasure of being there yesterday, I'm going to quickly recap our student awards. So here's how this works. I'm going to read a pretty long list, and hold your applause. Do not applaud for each individual name I read. And then by the time I get to the end of the long list, you'll have a decent number of people standing, and then you'll applaud, with great passion and gusto. Okay, these are the names of those who graduated with honors: Sarah Butramovich, Sasha Chavkin, Yilun Chen, Frederick Dreyer, Lindsay Dunsmuir, Sarah Hamden, Artis Henderson, Andrew Keschner, Lauren Kirshner, Christopher Livesay, Francis McInnes, Joel Mears, Ada Mulner, Stephen Nesson, Charisse Pham, Leslie Picker, Mary Plummer, Susanna Popek, Scott Sell, Shrina Sinha, Emma Silvers, John Tucker, Kim Velsey, Lisa Wananen, Rory Weisbord, Mara Zepeda. So let's have one round of applause for them, because there's a lot more. Okay, so now we'll do awards round 2. Those were the honors in class. These are all the specific awards. So again, don't applaud until I say it's okay, and then really lose it. And please stand when I call your name. The Richard T. Baker Bronx Inc. Award, it goes to, or went to, Sarah Butramovich. The Richard T. Baker Brooklyn Inc. Award Brooklyn Inc. Award went to Mary Plummer. The Richard T. Baker Columbia News Service Award, Megan Gibson. The Richard Baker Magazine Production Award, Joel Mears. The Richard Baker Magazine Production Award, Francis McInnes. The Richard Baker Magazine Writing Award, Lisa Held. Second Richard T. Baker Magazine Writing Award, John Tucker. And the final Richard Baker Award for Literary Journalism to Lauren Kirchner. The Nona Balakian Award for Literary Criticism, David Kessel. The Richard Blood Scholarship, Sam Fellman. The Judy F. Crichton Documentary Award, Prashita Sharma and Jessica Hopper. The Philip Greer Award, Lindsay Dunsmuir and Mangus Lowton. The Arthur Harris Prize for Best Master of Arts Thesis, finalists David Zaks and Carrie Payton Dahlberg, winner Rohini Mowan. The Robert Harron Award, Shefali Kulkarni. The just hold it back. The Fred Heckinger Journalism Education Award, Marissa Miley and Rob Scabo. The Horgan Prizes for Excellence in Critical Science Writing. Third place, Leonard Schoenberger. Second place, Delphine Reuter. First place, Sasha Chavkin. Outstanding Journalism Editorial Writing, Joel Mears. Peter Keller Editing Prize, Althea Fung. Joan Connor Broadcast Journalism Award, Charisse Pham. Linton Fellowship in Book Writing, Artis Henderson and Nathaniel Adams. Melvin Mentor Award, Chasen Marshall. Lars Eric Nelson Prize, Sam Fellman. Photojournalism Award, Diana Marcosian and Chris Geyer. Sackett Award, Maria Del Mar Cabra Valero and Daniel Roberts. Henry N. Taylor Award, Francis McInnes. James A. Wexler Award for International Reporting, Artis Henderson. James A. Wexler Award for National Reporting, Katya Vuchtel. James A. Wexler Award for Local Reporting, Summer Sadi. Lewis Winnick Prize, Lauren Kirchner. Digital Media Interactive Designs, Shane Snow. Excellence in the Digital Media Interactive Workshop, Lisa Wananen. Digital Media Multimedia Storytelling, Scott Sell and Andrew Ketchner. Digital Media Visual Storytelling, Lim Leung, Nightly News Workshop, Tama Mutasa and Kelly Koopmans. Radio Workshop, Katie Simon and Lindsay Dunsmuir. Video Storytelling Workshop, Edward Shun. So let's have a round for them. Finally, we have, I want to repeat the names of the winners of the awards to the top highest ranking students in the class. Again, I'll read this short list and then you'll applaud wildly at the end. The David Marcus Eibel Award went to Mara Zepeda. The Pulitzer Traveling Fellowships, part of Joseph Pulitzer's founding legacy to the school, went to 5 outstanding students to enable them to travel and study abroad. 1 Pulitzer Traveling Fellowship is presented to a student who wants to spend a career as an arts critic, and that fellowship went to Catherine Clark. 2nd fellowship went to Sasha Chavkin. 3rd fellowship, I have a misprint here. Who? John Tucker, sorry. Sasha, your name was on as 2nd and 3rd by misprint, so John, stand up. 4th, Rory Weisbord, and the final one, essentially our valedictorian, Lauren Kirchner. Big applause for them. Well, if we had the speeches before we award the degrees, it is far from certain that you'd stay for the speeches. So we have the speeches first. But now we actually will award the degrees. And to do that, I will invite to the podium our Dean of Student Affairs and May pronunciation czar, Sri Srinivasan.
To the award winners, congratulations, and to the parents, to some of the parents in the room, I want you to know I didn't get honors either when I graduated. To the students, I want to remind you that I told you the year would travel fast. 9 months for our MA students, 9 months for our MS students, 10 months for our MA students, 2 or 3 years for our part-timers, and multiple years for our PhD students. But of course, I have to invite you back already to another event. Orientation is on Friday for our part-time students, and if you're free, 4:30 Friday, Student Center reception. It is now my honor to introduce you to graduates from 40 countries and 35 states. Some of the names you hear today will be unfamiliar to you, and that's for 3 reasons. 1, some students have chosen a more traditional form and pronunciation of their name as opposed to the more Americanized version that you might have heard. 2nd, some students chose their full formal names in all their glory rather than the more nicknamey type names you knew them by. But the 3rd and biggest reasons some of these names might not sound familiar to you is that simply I will get them wrong. So I want to apologize to the parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and anyone else these students might have been named after. And now on to our program. I'd like to invite Assistant Dean of Students Melanie Huff to help distribute the diplomas. And I know many of you have a trick at these things. You sit there with your program and you know by alphabetical order when your student comes up. That won't work today. We're doing it by alphabetical order of their main professor rather than the list you have in front of you, just to keep it interesting. So I'm going to invite different professors to come up and present the awards, so you'll just have to listen carefully through each one because you never know when that student's coming up. First, we're going to present our degrees for the Master of Science candidates, October 2009. Those will be presented first by Professor John Dingus. And yes, it is appropriate to applaud each professor as they come up. From New York, New York, Insia Saeed. Our next presenter will be Dean Bill Gruskin. From Miami, Florida, Liz Bayo Matthews. Our next presenter will be Professor David Kleitel. From Castro Valley, California, Mizgan Zaire Darby. Our next presenter will be Professor Ruth Padower. From Seattle, Washington, Julia Mays. Our next presenter will be Professor Beth Whitehouse. From Irvine, California, D.W. Gibson. We will now present an MS degree from February 2010. The presenter will be Professor Ruth Padower. From San Francisco, California, Natalie Ehrlich. And I want extra applause for these folks. They've been here with us for some time. Our PhD graduates in communications, our PhD in communications. The awards will be presented by Professor Todd Gitlin. From New York City, John William Kelly. From Helsing, Denmark, Rasmus Kleist Nielsen. From Iowa City, Iowa, Benjamin Peters. Next, we'll present our MA, Master of Arts in Journalism, specializing in arts, business, politics, or science. And our first presenters in the arts program are Professors Elisa Solomon and David Haydu. From Ballymena, Northern Ireland, Catherine Clark. From Newton, Massachusetts, Abigail Goldsmith Drachman Jones. From London in the United Kingdom, Harpreet Kaur Gariwal. From New Delhi, India via Kerala, Nandini Nair. From New York City, Bao Ong. From Brooklyn, New York, Laura Catherine Raskin. From Beirut, Lebanon, Shireen Saad. From Auckland, New Zealand, Nicola Shepard. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Thomas Stolker. From San Jose, California, Sylvia Ulloa. From Hartford, Connecticut, Curtis Michael Wong. Our next presenters in the business major are Professor Sylvia Nasser and James Stewart. From Manchester, Connecticut, Victoria Finkel. From Grand Island, Nebraska, Jonathan Arthur Lentz. From Montreal, Canada, Angus Lowton. From Mendoza, Argentina, Rafael Matus Ruiz. From Hong Kong, China, Ivy Ng. From Vancouver, British Columbia, Jeff John Roberts. From San Francisco, California, Katie Roof. From Taganrog, Russia, Daria Solovyova. From Singapore, Michelle Tay. Our next presenters in the politics major are Professors Tom Edsel and Alexander Stilla. From Brooklyn, New York, Colin Asher Bosio-Cady. From London in the United Kingdom, Greg Callis. From Washington, D.C., Eliza Lindsay Gray. From Oslo, Norway, Øyvind Gustafsson. From Prague in the Czech Republic, Markéta Halpakova. From Baramulla, Kashmir, Tariq Mir. From Bangalore, India, Rohini Mohan. From Karachi, Pakistan, Ali Mustafa. From Mount Holly, New Jersey, Eric Parker. From Calgary, Canada, David Perlich. From New York City, Shandy Ray Segal. From Oslo, Norway, Heidi Tuxdal Seset. From Madrid, España, Aitana Vargas. From Ghent, Belgium, Wouter Verschelden. From Melbourne, Australia, Katja Vaktel. Our presenters in the science program are Professors Marguerite Holloway and Jonathan Weiner. From Guilford, Connecticut, David Funkhauser. From Kampala, Uganda, Owen Kibenge. From New York City, Peggy Mahalek. From New York City, Marissa Miley. From Los Alamitos, California, Amita Parashar. From Danville, California, Laura Peterson. From Sacramento, California, Carrie Peyton Dahlberg. From Berlin, Deutschland, Jana Schluter. From Washington, D.C., David Zaks. Next, we'll be presenting our Knight Bagehot Fellows. They'll receive a Master of Science degree and a certificate in economics and business journalism. The certificates and degrees will be presented by Professor Terry Thompson, Director of the Knight Bagehot Program. From San Salvador, El Salvador, Raul Gallegos. From New York City, Martha Alexandra Graybow. From Melbourne, Australia, Jackson Hewitt. From New York City via Wales, Roland Jones. From Newton, Massachusetts, Amit Ruveni Paley. From Doylestown, Pennsylvania, Joellen Chapman Perry. From Newark, Delaware, Robert Wary. From San Francisco, California, Nicole Cherise Wong. From New York, New York, Christine E. Young. Next, we'll be recognizing our Spencer Fellows, who will receive a certificate from the Spencer Fellowship in Education Journalism, and these will be presented by Professor Linnell Hancock. From Brooklyn, New York, Sarah Garland. From Silver Spring, Maryland, Elizabeth Green. From Brooklyn, New York, Peg Tyre. And now to our Master of Science in Journalism candidates. Our first presenters are Professors Lenny Boren and Dodi Siantar. From Portsmouth, Great Britain, James DeMello. From Paris, France, Yasmin Guerda. From Bellevue, Washington, Kelly Lynn Koopmans. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rory Kress Weisbord. From Albany, Georgia, Aaron Lee. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Daniel Hyatt Lieberman. From Harare, Zimbabwe, Taramakedzwa Tammy Mutasa. From Orlando, Florida, Carmen Perez. From Leawood, Kansas, Leslie Picker. From New Orleans, Louisiana, Brandon Duncan Walker. From Youngstown, Ohio, Abigail Wendell. From London in the United Kingdom, Yepoka Ago Yibo. Our next presenter will be Professor Eleanor Cabral. From Karachi, Pakistan, Fahad Faruqi. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Brian Armin Graham. From New Orleans, Louisiana, Renee Trishelle Henry. From Eastchester, New York, Peter Coleman. From Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Aaron Lee Macbeth. From Los Angeles, California, joining their mother on stage, Sophie and Sam, joined by Susan Sawyers. From Concord, Massachusetts, Spencer Wilking. Our next presenters will be Professor Cabral and Professor Rhoda Lipton. From Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, Leslie Elise Adkins. From London, England, Enno Alfred. From Monrovia, California, Ryan Nicole Blackshear. From Arcadia, California, Angela Chen. From Franklin, Virginia, John Eichide. From Cranberry, New Jersey, Leslie Elizabeth Hart. From London in the United Kingdom, Alexandra Sophie King. From Chandler, Arizona, Christopher Livesey. From Miami, Florida, Amanda Lynn Massa. From Upland, California, Sharaf Ahmed Mojood. From Calgary, Canada, Charisse Pham. From New York City, Monica Pochanichak. From New York City, Michelle Schocker. From Paris, France, Saskia Vandon. From Ramallah, Palestine, Rania Zabaneh. Our next presenters will be Professors Ann Cooper and Betsy West. From Sacramento, California, Kikabe Makonnen Araya. From Varna, Bulgaria, Nusha Balian. From Syosset, Long Island, Bradley Gallo. From Paris, France, Ketavan Gorgistani. From Rockford, Michigan, Jennifer Howard. From Queens, New York, a veteran of the Air Force, Jahangir Irani. From Des Moines, Iowa, Jane Ju Lee. From London in the United Kingdom, Kieran Moodley. From Anchorage, Alaska, Mary Joanne Elizabeth Plummer. From Mill Valley, California, Zach Seward. From Detroit, Michigan, Amika Smith. Our next presenters are Professors June Cross and Laura Muha. From Frankfurt, Deutschland, Danielle Bench. From Davenport, Iowa, David Andrew Collins. From Newton, Massachusetts, Chao Deng. From Alexandria, Virginia, via Palestine, Dunya Kamal. From Rochester, Minnesota, Kirk Clucky. From Moscow, Russia, Diana Markosian. From Los Alamitos, California, Sanaz Meshkinpour. From Tenafly, New Jersey, Thaddeus Novak. From Lahore, Pakistan, Aiza Umar. From Silver Spring, Maryland, Janelle Richards. From Munich, Deutschland, Leonard Schoenberger. From New Delhi, India, Shreya Sinha. From Falls Church, Virginia, Angelica Spanos Diotis. From Wilmington, Delaware, Courtney Agnes Adoris Street. Our next presenter will be Professor Ari Goldman. From Portland, Oregon, Mariah Jessica Summers. From Seattle, Washington, Megan Bradley Thomas. One more time. From Seattle, Washington, Megan Bradley Thompson. Our next presenter will be Professor Linnell Hancock. And she'll be joined by Professor Barbara Kantarowicz. Barbara Kantrowitz, there you go. From Bombay, India, Mamta Badkar. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Alex Berg. From Ada, Michigan, Connor Bowles. From Golden, Colorado, Frederick Dreyer. From Queens, New York, Maya Ephraim. From Dublin, Ireland, Donald Griffin. From Munich, Deutschland, Wanda Hellman. From Driftwood, Texas, Matthew Hoosman. From Watertown, New York, Alec Johnson. From Hillsboro, Oregon, Shafali Sunil Kulkarni. From San Luis Potosi, Mexico, Jose Leyva. From Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, Leslie Minora. From Ramsey, New Jersey, Amanda Kathleen Staub. From Istanbul, Turkey, Mustafa Mehdi Vural. From Cairo, Egypt, Sarah Umar Wali. From Bristol, Florida, Carmen Williams. Our next presenter will be Professor Tammy Luby. From New York, New York, Lauren Brown. From Falls Church, Virginia, Jeffrey Alexander Dooley. From Edinburgh, Scotland, Lindsay Dunsmuir. From Khartoum, Sudan, Rauya Elwatig Kamari. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, Samuel Lewis Fellman. From Toronto, Canada, Barnaby Geisweiler. From Athens, Greece, via Kuwait, Sarah N. Hamden. From London, England, Amanda Julius. From Furrabush, New York, Allison Martin. From Forest Hills, New York, Sudeep Mukherjee. From Gilroy, California, Veronica Phillips. From Singapore, Wei Luen Sun. From Verona, Italia, Alice Speri. From Chicago, Illinois, Mickey Steele. From San Jose, California, Van Tu. Our next presenters will be Professors Dale Maharaj and Jessica Bruder. From Baltimore, Maryland, Jennifer Dana Brookland. From Phoenix, Arizona, Amanda Lynn Chan. From New Delhi, India, Devrina Dhingra. From Brooklyn, New York, Patrick Egan. From New York, New York, Dustin Fitzharris. From Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Salam Gebrik Kidan. From New York, New York, Della Louise Hassel. From Regina, Canada, Laura Casisto. From Leavenworth, Kansas, Dara L. Miles. From Princeton, New Jersey, Charles Mosteller. From Tulsa, Oklahoma, Denver, Brian Morrissey Nix. From Larchmont, New York, Dan Rosen. From Seattle, Washington, Calvin Powell Snyder. From San Rafael, California, Rachel Stern. From Senningenberg, Luxembourg, Rebecca Thomas. From Plattsburgh, New York, Kim Velsey. From Brooklyn, New York, Michael Ventura. From New York City, Bill Weisbrod. From Kildare, Ireland, Barry J. White. Our next presenter will be Professor Judith Matloff. From New York, New York, Sierra Brown. From San Diego, California, Michelle Castillo. From Cairo, Egypt, Noha Mohammed El Hanawi. From Washington, D.C., Ali Gharib. From Mumbai, India, Shruti Gotipati. From Amman, Jordan, Umar Kashrawi. From London, England, Natasha Leonard. From Springfield, Virginia, Emily Russo Miller. From Phoenix, Arizona, Benedict Moran. From Alton, Alaska, Dean Myers. From Tokyo, Japan, Shiori Mokazaki. From Montclair, New Jersey, Michael Ratliff. From Alexandria, Virginia, Angelo Rotondero. From Singapore, Ruchika Tulsian. From Montreal, Canada, Evan Wexler. Our next presenter is Professor Mirta Ohito. From New York, New York, Nathaniel Adams. From Eglin, West Virginia, Matthew Baketel. From Milford, Connecticut, Taylor Catherine Brown. From Millbrae, California, Candice Chan. From Beijing, China, Yilun Chen. From New Orleans, Louisiana, Lenore Cho. From New Delhi, India, Radhika Gupta. From Fort Collins, Colorado, Ryan Hatch. From Istanbul, Turkey, Elif Inge. From St. Catherine, Jamaica, Shauna K. Lester. From Singapore, Lim Wee Leong. From Des Moines, Iowa, Jeanette Newman. From Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Carolyn Finessi. From Mumbai, India, Siddharth Philip. Because of a family emergency, he's not able to be with us, but we're going to read out his name anyway. From New York City, Hamid Razik. From Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Valentina Rodriguez. From Short Hills, New Jersey, Christian Yarnell. Our next presenter is Professor Ruth Padower. From Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, Tala Al-Ramahi. Accompanied by his daughter Maya, is a veteran of the United States Army from Maracaibo, Venezuela, Via Texas, Diego Aparicio. From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Victor Lee. From Melbourne, Australia, Claire McDougall. From Waterloo, Canada, Katie Moyes. From Reno, Nevada, Paula Newdorf. From Brooklyn, New York, Susie Popkick. From Omaha, Nebraska, Bayan Raji. From Wilmette, Illinois, Caroline Rothstein. From Dallas, Texas, Summer Sadi. From New Haven, Connecticut, Scott Anthony Sell. From New York, New York, Jonathan Shia. From Toronto, Canada, Zachary Snyderman. From Aberdeen, Scotland, Ian Thompson. From Columbus, Ohio. From Columbus, Ohio, Tracy Joan Wolfe. From New York, New York, Grace Louise Williams. From our next presenter is Professor Sandy Padway. From Calcutta, India, Sareen Abubakar. From New Orleans, Louisiana, Dia Chaco. From Brooklyn, New York, Darius Dixon. From New York, New York, Ashley Morgan Ferry. From Toronto, Canada, Colin Fleming. From Huntington, New York, Lauren Beatty Kirchner. From Caen, France, Sheen Lebay. From Victoria, Canada, Andrew Lampard. From Vancouver, Canada, Francis McInnes. From Scotch Plains, New Jersey, Alan Jeffrey Newhouser. From Houston, Texas, Victoria Rossi. From Windhoek, Namibia, Torsten Scheer. From Princeton, New Jersey, Robert Christopher Scabo. From Albany, California, Emma Silvers. From Tel Aviv, Israel, Yoav Sivan. From Berlin, Deutschland, Franziska Shaven. Our next two presenters are Professor Robin Reisig and Professor Billy Gorda. From Greenbelt, Maryland, Danielle Douglas. From Queens, New York, David Fazekas. From Brooklyn, New York, Matthew Hennessy. From Brooklyn, New York, Mario Nicasio Lopez. From Cambridge, Massachusetts, Ada Milner. From Battleboro, Vermont, Stephen Nissen. From East Northport, New York, Scott Ulster. From Evergreen, Colorado, Bradley Warren Stell. Our next presenter is Professor Addie Rimmer. From Athens, Greece, Nikolia Apostolou. From New York, New York, Sasha Chafkin. From Wilmington, Delaware, Sonia Dasgupta. From Montezuma, New Mexico, Christopher Geyer. From Coral Springs, Florida, Sonam Hajela. From Missouri City, Texas, Ashley R. Harris. Abilene, Texas, Daniel James Johnson Kim. From New York, New York, David Kessel. From Toronto, Canada, Stephanie Marcus. From Brussels, Belgium, Delphine Ryder. From Clifton Park, New York, a veteran of the U.S. Army, John Ryan. From Chicago, Illinois, Eliza Celerio. From Spartanburg, South Carolina, Lauren Saucer. From Brooklyn, New York, Yaffe Spodek. From Lawrenceville, New Jersey, Ryan Tracy. From New York, New York, Shanti Bharadwaj. Our next presenters are Professor Christopher Scanlon and Pam Frederick. From Denver, Colorado, Spencer Bailey. From Shreveport, Louisiana, Amy Britton. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Lindsay Schutel. From Fort Myers, Florida, Artis Henderson. From Mountainside, New Jersey, Alexander Melville Robertson Hotz. From Bartlett, Illinois, Sujay Kumar. From Edison, New Jersey, Radhika Maria. From Harare, Zimbabwe, Wadzanai Mute. From Bermuda, Claire O'Connor. From Karachi, Pakistan, Mahawish Misha Rezvi. From Seattle, Washington, Ruth Schneider. From Bronxville, New York, Marlo Stern. From Pachuca, Mexico, Paulina Villegas. From San Francisco, California, Alexandra Waldhorn. Our next presenter is Professor Michael Shapiro. From Manhasset, New York, Christopher Alessi. From Birmingham, Michigan, Robert Christopher Anderson. From Overland, Kansas, Terry Baines. From Queens, New York, Stephanos Dennis Chen. From Bangalore, India, K.S. Nikhil Kumar. From Pleasantville, New York, Meredith Matson Kennedy. From Calgary, Canada, Miranda Lynn. From San Francisco, California, Jack Jose Merkinson. From Padova, Italia, Alicia Pirolo. From Bowling Green, Virginia, Sarah Rabin Portlock. From Newton, Massachusetts, Daniel Benjamin Roberts. From Gaithersburg, Maryland, Ishita Singh. From Richmond, Virginia, Derek Bryson Taylor. From Lima, Peru, Caterina Valdivieso. From Santa Fe, New Mexico, Mara Zapeta. From Roma, Italia, Natania Zevi. Our next presenter is Professor Paula Spann. From Richmond, Virginia, Marvin Anderson. From Enfield, Connecticut, Sarah Whitbro Buchramovich. From Paris, France, Cécile Dueston. From Memphis, Tennessee, Ashley Fox. From New York, New York, Rachel Horowitz. From Juno Beach, Florida, Rebecca Huval. From Suffern, New York, Andrew Samuel Keshner. From Toronto, Canada, Tim Killads. From Singapore, Shireen Patak. From New York City, Samuel Griffin Petula. From Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, a veteran of the U.S. Army, Nate Rawlings. From New Delhi, India, Sonal Shah. From Idaho Falls, Idaho, Shane David Snow. From Ottawa, Canada, Joshua Tapper. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, Lisa Wananen. From New York, New York, Suzanne Weinstock. From Karachi, Pakistan, Hani Yusuf. Our next presenter is Professor Richard Wald. From Sacramento, California, Winifred Louise Andrews. From Ottawa, Canada, Natalia Baj. From Morgantown, West Virginia, Jonathan Kroll. From Brooklyn, New York, Althea Fung. From Saskatoon, Canada, Megan Gibson. From Boston, Massachusetts, Bessie King. From Eden Prairie, Minnesota, Vadim Lavrusik. From Topsham, Maine, Ellen Joy London. From Costa Mesa, California, Chasen Celine Marshall. From Sydney, Australia, Joel Mears. From Los Angeles, California, Nushin Rashidian. From Lahore, Pakistan, Sonia Rahman. From Paris, France, Isabel Schaefer. From Queens, New York, Caroline Shin. From Gig Harbor, Washington, Andrew Tobin. From Brooklyn, New York, Hunter Walker. From Nogales, Arizona, a veteran of the U.S. Army, Daniel Woolfolk. From Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Naomi Abraham. From Amman, Jordan, Summer Al-Zibde. From Tustin, California, Candy Cheng. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Our final presenter is Professor Beth Whitehouse. This is Candice Cheng. From Union City, New Jersey, Carmen Cusido. From Red Bank, New Jersey, Sharon McCluskey. From New York, Joseph Pisani. From White Plains, New York, Jenny Chalant. From Brookline, Massachusetts, Rebecca Title. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, John Hayden Tucker. From Washington, D.C., a veteran of the U.S. Army accompanied by Tuesday, Luis Carlos Montalvan. Ladies and gentlemen, he got an envelope too. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2010. You would have